Welcome to Giggles and Goals.
I'm LEONIE.
And I'm CRYSTAL-DIOR.
Today,
We're
we,
excited,
we're super
clearly.
excited. We got some new things for you, but let's get into our run of the show as per usual.
Our
So,
one-liners.
our one-liners. So, you want to go first? You want me to go first?
I can go first.
Okay.
Now I got nervous because we have company. Okay,
They don't know that yet.
sorry. Okay, I'm a mindset coach. My job is to study people's eras so that you won't make their same errors. Y'all get it?
Well,
Y'all get it? I'm so excited. Okay.
First of all, well, since we kind of already gave it away, you don't know, but we're really corny up in here. So, we're going to keep it that way. I'm going to keep it rolling with I'm not just high maintenance. I'm highly worth it. And self-care is my full-time job.
Holla. Holla, soft girl life.
Okay, listen. Soft girl era all up and through, okay?
Hashtag. Right. But before we jump to the next segment, we have a guest. If you didn't already guess, I
Yes, kind of gave it away.
cat out of the bag. Sorry, I got nervous. Okay. But we have a guest. Her name is Val. We'll tell you more about her later. But for now, Val, do you want to share your one-liner?
Yes, I will share my
Okay.
one-liner. Okay. I'm a Midwest girl trying to conquer the world, one candle at a time.
All right.
Conquer the world?
Yes,
Yes.
that's good. That was good. That was good for impromptu because I've been
That
doing
was.
impromptu ones and it be going real left. Okay. Okay, quick on your feet. All right, so now you want to get into. We have something else before we get to the next
That's
thing?
it.
All
Let's
right.
go to Who Said That.
Let's get to Who Said That, and it's my turn this week. Okay, so this one says, caring for myself is not self-indulgence. It is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare.
This is deep. This is somebody deep.
It is. So,
Okay.
who's normally deep? This person is a poet.
Okay.
She's an activist.
Okay.
She's from Harlem.
I think I know.
She's
Go
no
ahead,
longer
guess.
living. Yeah, you can guess.
Maya Angelou?
No, it is not. I'm Maya Angelou. I knew that was going to be an easy one.
Harlem?
She's
Harlem,
old
Harlem,
school.
Harlem.
Toni Morrison?
No. She believed in the revolutionary power of self-care.
And she's no longer living.
No.
I have no idea.
I don't think I know
none.
either.
I wish I had more clues, honestly. I'm ashamed that I don't have better clues, but it's Audre Lorde.
Who?
Audre Lorde.
Okay.
Girl,
Yeah.
not who. Okay, let's move on. She's a decorated poet. Okay. All right. So, womp. That one was a and it can go.
I wouldn't have guessed it.
Whoop, whoop. Okay.
Even with better clues, I wouldn't have guessed it.
Okay.
But let's jump to our topic of the day, which we're so excited about. Do you want to go ahead and give us more information about it, LEONIE?
Yeah, so I'm going to introduce our beautiful guest today. Her name is Val Barnett. And so I'm going to do a quick introduction. So we're thrilled to welcome an inspiring entrepreneur and mental health advocate to the show. Like I said, Val Barnett, the president and chief maker of Immerse. Val's journey is nothing short of remarkable. Immerse was born from Val's desire to help others find simple, time-efficient ways to relax. Today, the company offers eco-friendly, artisan-crafted products like soy wax candles, bar soaps, mango body butters, and even children's soaps, which I have a little baby girl, so I'm going to hit you up for that. Each product is designed not just for luxury, but with a purpose to create an oasis of calm in our busy lives. Val bootstrapped Immerse from her savings and secured grants to grow her vision. Her commitment to quality and innovation shines through in every product, blending sustainability with relaxation. Join us as we dive into Val's inspiring story of resilience, creativity, and her mission to make self-care accessible for everyone. So, applause. Welcome.
Welcome to Giggles and Goals, Val. We are clearly very excited to have you here. And thank you for that amazing intro, LEONIE. There's a few things that we purposely left out because we want you all to hear it from Val. So let's kick it off, Val. Tell us, if you were to give your snippet of what you did before you're an amazing candle maker, tell us about it.
Yeah. So first, thanks, LEONIE, because that was an amazing introduction.
Awesome. We worked on it together. Team effort.
Thank you. Thank you both. I need y'all to get to write my standard introduction. That's really good. Okay, so before I became the president of Immerse, I was a healthcare executive. So I went to undergrad right after high school, and then I went and got my master's degree from Tulane University in health administration. And I spent over 10 years as a healthcare executive. I worked through COVID, which was a very
Mhm.
interesting experience,
I can
because
imagine.
I feel like everyone experienced COVID, right? But when you work in healthcare, you experience it a little bit different. It was most definitely a very isolating time, literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
And, it was a blessing to be able to work in the field during that time because I got to learn a lot and I got to see how hard, my staff worked, and I got to be inspired by them every day, but it was also a very difficult time as well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How long were you in healthcare before the pandemic? Were you new to it or I mean,
Mm-mm.
you're an executive, so you're
Yep,
in it for a
yep.
while before.
Yeah, I was in it for a while before. So I was in it for about 8 years before the pandemic.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
So so at the height of it all, this is when you decided like you needed a change because you were going through so much during the COVID and healthcare,
Yeah,
correct?
so a little bit of a backstory about that. When I was 15, I was diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. And I would always use candles to help myself relax. So different scents. So during the pandemic, I would come home, working 16-hour days, being on call 24 hours. And I was just over watching TV at that point. Like there was nothing else that was entertaining on TV for me. And so my husband made a suggestion. He goes, you love candles so much, you should just make yourself some candles. And so I was
Mhm.
like, okay, whatever. So I started making myself candles just to make myself happy. And then I started
Mhm.
sharing them with my friends at work and my family because it was a time where people were just very isolated and sad.
Yeah.
And so, I started sharing them and they're like, you should like sell these. Like, and somehow it started into a business.
I
That's
love that.
awesome. I love how things kind of just tumble their way to success.
Mhm.
Yes, yes,
One thing I remember from the pandemic, I think a lot of people tried new things that they had never done because 'cause you're at home. I mean, you weren't necessarily at home, but people just it was a although it was probably the roughest time in most of our lives, it was the most creative time in a lot of
yes,
people's lives. 'Cause I remember I started doing my own nails around that time.
yeah,
I learned how to braid around that time.
Ooh, that's
Like,
a
you just
good skill.
'cause you had
yes,
time to find out how to do stuff because places were closed, so if you wanted to be cute, you
yep,
gotta figure out how to do your hair and your nails, right? So I think it's cool that you use that time to start a business and a business that poured into other people. Yeah.
yeah,
So tell us more about, like, that journey of the startup of the business. Like, what was
Yeah.
it like starting I know when I started my business, it wasn't pandemic, so I could go into the places, get this, get that. What was the process like for you?
it was a lot of research online, a lot of trial and error. When I think about my first candle, I'm so
Mhm.
embarrassed, but we've gotten so much better since then. They smelled amazing, but they didn't look the best. And so
Mm.
I, learned a lot through trial and error for sure. And I learned what worked for me as a maker, because each maker has their own preferences in terms of even simple things like what wax you want to use. So when I first started the business, I have a really funny story about the logo.
Okay,
Okay.
let's talk about it.
So when I decided to make it a business, I knew I wanted to name it something that people could resonate with. And so I decided on immerse because that's how I wanted people to feel when they burn the candle. I want them to feel immersed in the scent.
Immerse,
That's
yeah.
good.
hmm and I changed it to an E so I could trademark it. Um,
Smart.
and so, right? And so I remember I had this date in mind. I was like, okay, because I'm a Capricorn and I'm like full when I get committed to something, it's go time, right? And
Dan.
so locked in, right? So I had a launch date. I was like, okay, we're gonna launch the website on this date. So I was working with this designer and he was just taking forever to get back to me. And he didn't end up getting back
Been
to
there.
me, right? Until like 5 hours before launch.
Oh my
And I
goodness.
I got the logo and I was like, "What is this?"
Oh, you didn't even like it? He made you wait for trash? See,
Yes, so bad. It was so bad. So
Uh,
the way the logo came about, I was up at 1 o'clock in the morning crying. I was so
been there.
frustrated.
Wait,
Been
per
there, right?
usual on
Right.
Entrepreneur Valley.
Per usual.
Exactly. designing the logo, and that's how the logo came about.
Oh, well,
Not a
it's first of
designer.
all, it's beautiful, it's clean. When I was going through your shop and your website, I'm like, it gives you that like long lasting brand feeling, like it's going to be around for a while. It looks
Yeah, I
good.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Love that, and I love that. I mean, Leonie and I both have been in the DIY season of entrepreneurship where we had a videographer ghost us. Remember the student?
Yes, I
Oh,
remember. I remember, and I accidentally I thought I was sending the voice note to Crystal, and
About
I
him
ended up sending
ghosting?
it, and I sent it to our group chat, and I'm like, I hope he didn't ghost us. And he like, and he got it. I was like, "Oop."
No,
So we know
listen.
what it's like to like expect something and then people just be not responsive.
Yeah, yeah.
So then you talked a little bit about where you like getting started, like how you got started, how you bootstrapped and all that. But going between that transition, what was that transition like that breaking point where you were like, okay, this is it. I'm going to do this now because you're no longer in healthcare, correct?
that's correct.
Okay. So what's that breaking point like? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, I
Go
finished
ahead.
your question. I'll remember mine. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay. Um, so the breaking point was it was well into the pandemic, and in complete honesty, I wasn't happy. I love serving people. I love being a servant leader. I love my staff. Like I said, I'm inspired by them every day, even when I think back on how hard they worked even before the pandemic. But within myself, I just wasn't happy in my career anymore. I learned that money doesn't make you happy. I know people say that, but it doesn't. It doesn't make you happy at all. And so I found that when I was making candles, I was more relaxed. I was happier. I was in my creative genius space, and that made me feel fulfilled. And I was like, wait, I think I could, I think I can do this. It's funny because I started Immerse in Oakland, California. Shout out to Oakland.
Oh, okay. We Cali girls over
We're
here.
Cali
Hey, Cali
too.
girl. Yes.
Yeah. I
Yes.
mean, I'm from Southern California though.
Yeah,
We're
we're
not. I don't,
Southern California.
but
Yeah,
still
it's
Cali
okay.
gang, gang, gang. Okay, continue.
I actually I lived in the Inland Empire for 7 years, and most of you in the
Oh,
capital.
okay.
Cameron,
So
you know
you
I
know
did.
Cali, Cali. IE
I
is
know Cali,
very
Cali.
okay.
Yes, but I was in Oakland, and we actually did an event. My husband and I. My husband came with me, and I was like, I'm going to try this entrepreneur thing out when I was still working. And we sold out during the event.
Wow.
That's amazing.
And I was like, "Oh, this is a clear sign. This is a clear sign from God that I need to do something with this, that He didn't give me this gift just to sit on it."
Yeah.
And so that was kind of my transition. I was like, okay, people actually love the blends. And this is when I had first started blending. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm only going to get better and it's going to get,
Oh, I
grow.
love it.
And so I was like, yeah, this is it. I can do this. I can do this. And my
It
husband
felt
was
right.
very supportive. Yeah, it felt right.
That's good. So it was more like it was a feeling of like, okay, you feel the validation and like you
Mhm.
felt it right in your spirit, like, okay, I could let this other thing go.
Yes, for sure.
Okay. Okay, Chris, what was your question?
My question was, when did you go full time entrepreneur? So it was right after this event.
Shortly after. So it was January 1st, 2022. I remember the date because we moved. That's the same day that we moved to Georgia. So we relocated to Georgia from California.
Got it. So you
Mhm.
started a new career, new business
Yep.
in a new place
Yep.
Okay, it was a
at the
real
same
fresh
time.
start.
A
That
real
sounds
fresh
like
start.
I love fresh starts. Listen,
Yeah.
I love them. I absolutely love them. So it's like, how long ago was that?
So
So
2022.
yep,
Oh,
22,
yeah,
3 years.
2022. That's right. That's right.
Yep.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So then, well, I'm forgetting my question. It was, dang it, Chris, do you have one? I'm
Yeah.
forgetting one.
No problem. So, okay. So you moved to Georgia, new business.
Yep.
Was it a completely different strategy in a new state? Because Cali buyers are
That's
different than
right.
Georgia
Yes.
buyers,
That's right.
Yes.
right? So what was that like?
That's a good question.
So it was like restarting the business. I have to be 100%
Mm,
honest. It was like literally what I thought in my head was that I was going to pick up the business and just move it and it would be like seamless. Not at
mm,
all. The laws are different.
Girl,
Everything is so
the
different.
people are different.
The people are different. Price points need to be different.
buying habits.
Buying habits are different.
Mhm.
But I would say my one saving grace was that when I was in California, when I was in Oakland, I started on this farmers market journey. So farmers market, they admit
Mm.
handmade products,
Yes.
and that was a really great success story for me. It is a very low entry fee, and you have the possibility of making a lot of money against a very low vendor fee, I should say.
I like that.
And so when I moved to Georgia, I took that same tactic and I said, okay, let me get into farmers markets. Let me figure it out. Little did I know, the farmers market application season in Georgia is from December to mostly like January, beginning of February. So in the midst of moving, I was a little behind, but lo and behold, by the grace of God, I got into Brookhaven Farmers Market, and it was the start of our whole farmers market footprint in Georgia.
Mm.
Awesome.
Do you have
Awesome.
regulars now? Like people who come,
Yeah,
you do?
yes, we have regulars. We are in this year. I think we're in 12 markets.
Yes.
We sell online also, but our farmers markets are where we really get to interact with our customers, when we get to test new products, hear their feedback, talk to them about
Mhm.
their day, and just get to understand the customer a lot more.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
I remember my question now.
Go ahead.
So some ways can say like, okay, making candles, that's in a saturated market. There's like everybody's making candles. How did you have those thoughts? And if so, how did you overcome them and what made you want to push through anyway?
That's a really great question. I'm really happy you asked me that because when I first moved to Georgia, people would ask me, like, what do you do? And I'd be like, oh, I'm a maker. Like, I make candles, body butters, lip balms, soaps, da da da. And they'd be like, "Oh, well, that's a very saturated market." But the funny thing about that is when I moved to Georgia, I would have like 50 CPAs contacting me a day. Like, "Do you need CPA services? Do you need CPA services?" And I'm like, CPAs seem to be a really saturated market. And
Right.
so what I always tell people is that even if a market is saturated, you have to stand out in the market. There has to be something unique about your products or your brand. And
Mhm.
so there's always going to be saturation in every market.
Mhm.
There are lots of finance people, lots of makers, lots of this, lots of that. But you have to find your unique value proposition in that space. And if
Mhm.
you genuinely want something, I say go after it. Like, don't let that stop you from doing it.
I love that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we face that same thing with starting our podcast.
Right. It's like everybody got a
Podcasting is
podcast. Mm-hmm.
so saturated. Like probably like at least once a month, one of my friends is like, "How did you start your podcast? I'm starting one." Right? That's just people. That's just people that I know, and I tell them because I'm like, "Your show isn't my show."
Right.
I mean, Netflix. How many shows does Netflix have? I've watched all of them, unfortunately.
Exactly.
Right? So it's like it's okay if it's saturated because what you're doing is different. So I love that you didn't let that discourage you.
Mm-hmm.
And I also love that you call yourself a maker because
Yeah.
I don't
Yes.
think I've ever heard that title before.
Right.
Yeah.
So I like that. You're a maker.
Yeah.
Yes.
You make things happen.
It's
Mm-hmm.
interesting because, like, in the business, I have to separate myself as a maker from me as a president.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a maker, I want everything new. I want the
Mm-hmm.
most expensive ingredients. I want everything, right? But the president of the company is like, girl, we got a bottom line. Like,
Right.
Right.
you
Right.
need to calm
Right.
down.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I feel like it's important for me to call myself a maker and the president because those are two distinct roles. And
Mm,
I think that whenever you have anyone who's a creative who owns a business, you have to carve out those roles even in your own head to be successful.
that's a good tip. Go ahead, Leonie.
So as the maker and the, business person, you have to put on both hats. I work with interior designers and who also run their own businesses most of the time. And they bring me in to help consult on their systems and operations and stuff like that. And so when you have this designer or you have this creative person and then you have the business person, what tactics do you use and how do you, talk to yourself to make sure that you can live in both of those spaces, maybe not at the same time, but they both get to give their full selves.
So the conversation that I had to have with myself, because I found those two things to constantly be in conflict,
Right.
and I had to determine some core values for both of them. So as a maker, I will not compromise on quality at all, ever. I will not compromise on the brand identity. And making sure it's a cohesive brand. And I also will never compromise on the morals of the business around mental health and having, supporting mental health in the community and supporting the mental health of myself. And those are my three things that I will never compromise on. Other than those three things, the president role takes over.
I
I
got you.
love that. I love those boundaries you
Yeah.
have where it's
Yeah.
like, if it's related to these three things, this is where this person shows up.
Mhm.
Everything else is left to drill sergeant over there.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
But something you said that stood out, me being a entrepreneur and thinking it's so exciting when you have your first employee. Tell us more about that. Like how many are in your team and what was
Yeah.
that like hiring your first person? Was it your husband? Was it your
Yes.
kids? Like what we want to hear about that journey.
So we currently have 3 W-2s and we also have contract employees.
Okay, W-2s. That's a big
Okay,
deal.
okay. It's paying that extra taxes.
Right, exactly. It was an adventure. I learned a lot through the hiring process. I learned to not recreate the wheel. I wasn't going to do anything manual. I was like, we're going to come up with a time and attendance system that already exists. We're going to use one of these. And we
Mhm.
just so happened to go with Square because I also use Square for processing payments, and my
Okay.
staff are used to the system. And so, in addition to that, I just leaned on the connections I already had. So we already had general liability insurance. I just called my insurance provider and I said, hey, in the state of Georgia, when you have three or more W-2s, now you have to have workers' comp insurance. So where do I get workers' comp insurance from? Right. And they helped me. I leaned on what I already had in place to just, create a system for my employees. And then in addition to that, down the line, I decided to introduce employment agreements that includes non-disclosure agreements just to protect things about the business that were really important to me. And so it's still a learning process for me, to be 100% honest. It was a growing process, it's still a learning process. I'm always tweaking the employment agreements when something happens. I'm like, okay, I didn't consider that before, but now I need to include it because this is something that
Mhm.
we need to address as an organization. So, yeah, it was a learning process for sure.
That's
You know
good.
what I love? Leonie knows I do this. I will give kudos in a moment when I get excited about someone's journey. I love that not only are you a small business owner, you're doing it like by the book, right?
Right.
Thank you.
And I love that because usually we don't. We kind of wing it.
Yeah.
Right.
Pay you on
Mhm.
the side, here's a little bit of cash. But like you are doing it
Right.
right. Like you have insurance for them, you have liability agreements, you have some of them they can file their taxes with you. Like I
Yeah.
love that you not only are doing it, so I guess you pull from your administrative side from the
Yeah.
healthcare,
For
but
Right.
you're
sure.
you're doing it like legit by the book, and I think that's cool, especially for new entrepreneurs out there who probably think that's so intimidating because it can kind
Yeah.
of feel scary to start getting liability insurance and this
Yes.
like that's kind of
For
scary.
sure. It is.
So tell me like how is it managing people on this scale? I know managing them healthcare is a little bit
Yes.
different than it all being on you.
Yep.
How has that been? Have you had any like crazy stories? You have to fire anybody or
I have, unfortunately.
oh
Yeah, womp womp. It happens.
candle
It
making
happens,
tea? Spill the
Okay,
right?
tea.
candle making spill the candle making tea. Who did it?
What I will say is it is very different because when I was in healthcare, the one job that I never wanted was HR. I never wanted that job. Like people just be coming to work acting crazy. I don't have time for that.
Acting a plum fool.
And so in entrepreneurship, like you said, you wear all the hats. Like you
Yeah.
can contract out for some help, but you still, in the end of the day, your boss,
Mhm.
and you got to take care of situations when they come up. I have had to terminate someone, two people. I've had to terminate two people.
Man.
I have, but the experience taught me that I'm a risk taker. Our mission is to hire people who have experience with mental illness. And that's something that's very important to
Mm,
me, especially as someone who myself has a mental illness. I think it's just really important, and I'm always going to be a calculated risk taker. And, even in my corporate career when I was in healthcare, my whole mentality was I'm here to be of best service to my team, whether that's
mhm,
with me or if they want to move on somewhere else. And sometimes things aren't a good fit, and I've learned not to take that personally, but instead kind of be a catalyst for that person and say, okay, well, you're not a good fit here. How can I help you in your next career journey?
that's good.
So I've learned a lot.
That's good.
So how do you manage, because I wouldn't say I have anxiety disorder, but I know that I get a little stressed
Yep. Yep.
and I have a little bit of ADHD. And so I know for me, I have to build, and I've been doing this probably since high school. I have to build safeguards so that I
Mhm.
know I get things done, especially with my ADHD, because my mind will go to 40 things in 10 minutes, right? So I set to do, like, there's certain things that I do so that I'm on top of things. Most people say they don't even know that I have it because of all the parameters that I put around making sure that nothing gets dropped. So for you having an anxiety disorder, how do you manage being an entrepreneur? Because it's just highly stressful without an
All the
anxiety disorder, right? So
Right.
what do you do outside of your candles to
Yep.
not burn out?
Yeah.
okay, pun intended, maybe.
I did it, but I should
It was cute. It was cute.
have. Val doesn't know this yet, but Val, like, I should have been a rapper. So sometimes I just be rhyming and I don't even
Yeah,
realize.
that's an ongoing story on the podcast. Is she's one day gonna come out. She's done several diss tracks, and now, and then she'll be coming out with an album at some point.
That's awesome.
But
Uh,
yes, how do you manage avoiding burnout?
yes. So I use a lot of the lessons that I learned from my healthcare career because I most definitely burned out when I was in healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
And what I learned from that was that you have to be accountable for your own health and you have to be accountable for your own mental health. And so sometimes I need a break and it just is what it is. Um, I can't like pour into someone else's cup if my cup is empty. That
Yep.
phrase. You just cannot do it. And so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I have to have a conversation with myself to say, okay, today you're feeling very anxious. You need to take 10, journal it out, pray about it. Maybe you need to go to sleep.
Maybe see a nap.
Sleep.
Something
Right.
simple,
So,
Sleep
yeah,
will solve a lot. Like 50% of the problem, sleep will solve it.
exactly.
Listen, I don't know why we stopped having nap time, but
Exactly.
Adults need naps.
I agree.
100%. Bring them back. We just started a petition. Bring them back.
Yeah. And I think, like, furthermore, I feel like what I have learned about managing people, even in my corporate career, is that as a leader, you set the tone. And
Mm,
so I've always wanted to create a work environment in which my staff felt safe to talk about their feelings. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's still a work environment, but like I want them to feel safe
I
enough
love
to
that.
say, if I'm having a bad day, I'm having a bad day, right?
Yeah.
And I try to be conscious of the fact that I need to lead by example in that. I'm always going to be their boss, no matter how, you know what I mean, friendly it gets.
Mhm.
That's still the role I play. But I try my best to lead by example and just, being honest about how I'm feeling.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're creating an environment where, yes, they're professional, but you also allow them to be human. And I
Absolutely.
think sometimes people think it's one or the other, but you can be
Yes.
professional and be human.
Yeah, I
Sometimes
Yeah.
agree.
you're just having a rough day. Sometimes you just woke up late,
Yeah.
you
Right.
know?
You said
Yeah.
percolate?
You woke up late. It's all
Oh,
right.
so sometimes you just want to percolate. I'm like, I want to percolate.
That's gonna be the hashtag for this clip. Like, do
Some,
you need to percolate?
yeah, I need to percolate. Okay, okay, okay.
But I love that. So you merge your entrepreneurship with your mental health wellness. You merge it all because you you
Yes.
you get the value in it, especially being in healthcare. If anyone knows
Yeah.
about burnout and how to avoid it and probably what it leads to, right? From being a
Yeah.
administrator to being a patient real quick. And if you don't
Mhm.
manage that. So I love that. I love that for you and for your team. But go ahead, Leonie. I know you have a question.
I do. They've been holding back. So I do want to take a couple of steps back. I would definitely want to get back to the mental health conversation because I have a lot more questions about that. But something I wanted to add in when we were talking about your organization and how you did things by the book. I think we had in like one of our promos like I wish that everybody didn't think they had to have it all together when they got started, but I wish more people had it together. And it's like you seem like you found that middle ground. Tell me about did that have anything to do with you applying? I'm going to give some away, but applying for grants. So I
Yes.
want to talk about that what made you think that you could apply for grants? Like did that I'm sure I've applied for an SBA loan, so I know that my stuff had to be fully tip top shape for that. So I imagine for a grant that has something to do with the making sure everything was all the boxes were checked.
Yes. For sure. So when I first started the business in Oakland, I want to give a shout out to the Black Chamber of Commerce in Oakland
Okay.
because they were really like instrumental in making sure that the entrepreneurs who were a part of the chamber had the resources they needed.
Mm.
And so I would say what has helped me the most is that I'm a reader. I like to read. I like to read up on regulations for the business, laws, incorporation statuses, tax filing. Like I want to know everything. I
Mhm.
know how I can do it. I want to do it right the first time so I don't have to go back and fix it in the end and be charged lots of fines and things of that nature. And so I would say that helped me a lot. But then also from a grant perspective, during the pandemic, there were lots of grants that were just like popping up, right? And I didn't really know that I was going to get a grant. I was just like, well, I mean, I have some time, so I'm just going to fill it out. We gonna see
Why
what
not?
happens. Why not, right? And it just so happens that would be awarded grants, and I was like, oh, okay, this is
Mm.
nice. Like, okay, it can
Mhm.
help start the new product line, or create the boxes for these products or
Mhm.
whatever. And I always say people should apply for grants because it's free money.
Mhm.
The worst that you have to do for a grant is to fill out a progress report, which is like that's nothing.
Yeah.
You don't have to
Mhm.
pay it back.
Mhm.
And some grants come with mentorship. So I
Ooh.
say grants are a great avenue for anyone who's starting a business, especially when you're first starting, because a lot of grantors they like to fund new startups because they want to be on the ground and help you, get it off the
Mhm.
ground. And so I think that's super important. I don't think people should shy away from grants at all.
How did you find the grants? Like, you just
Yeah.
Googled or what did you do?
So I Googled like grants for small businesses, right?
Mhm.
And what popped up was Hello Alice. I don't know if people are familiar with Hello Alice, but it's this platform where a lot of grantors will run their grants through Hello Alice. And, you apply for the grants through that platform. So they'll have like a list of open grants. And then you can look at the criteria to see if you meet the criteria and you can apply that way. Hello Alice has been a really, really good resource for me.
Very cool.
Mm.
Next question on that, because I know there's a whole career dedicated to grant
Yes.
writing, right?
Exactly.
So I know it's not an easy thing. Did you write your own grants or did you
Uh-huh.
hire a grant writer? You wrote, okay.
I
Listen,
wrote my own grants.
this is why Val's our first
Okay.
interview.
Exactly. Exactly.
I
Listen, giving the real good seeds and information. Yes.
I
Nuggets.
would say my little nugget about grant writing. Here's the thing about grant writing. Like I said, people like to get in when you're just launching your product because they love to feel like, they're helping you lift something off the ground. But I also think it's just really important to realize that although it's a grant, people want to know that their money has a return on investment. And what I mean by that is, let's just say, for example, you want to launch lip balms, for example. You want to charge $7 per lip balm. You need to know your cost of the lip balm. You need to know your profit margin. So then you can recalculate a return on investment. When
Mhm.
you put that kind of stuff in a grant, they're like, what? Like, oh my gosh, she got it together. Like, we want to help
Oh
her. You know
wow.
what I mean?
The bar is
So
that
I
low?
would say, right.
So you had detail, as many details as
Right.
Yeah.
possible.
Yes, as many
Wow.
details as possible. I think that you need to show that you know your business, number 1, and that your business can make money, number 2.
Mm.
I love that. I
That's
remember
good.
I did a pitch competition here in Houston. Leonie remembers
Oh,
because she kind of helped me with some elements of it. But the part that I did not have squared away in a tight way was the profit. Because I was trying to do too
Mhm.
much. I was trying to make it like a coffee shop that did therapy, like trying to do too much. And so that's what they told me. They're like, we think your idea is cool, but how do we know it's going to make money? Like we know coffee makes
right.
money, but how do you, so like that, like what you're saying is true. Like that's the one thing that they want. They're like, it's a cool
Uh,
idea, but when will you be in the green? Right?
mm.
How long will you be
Exactly.
in the red? Right? So
Exactly.
from that question, have you made it into the green yet? How's it going?
It's so funny because we were green from the beginning, to be 100% honest. When
Yes.
I put money into the company, I honestly didn't have to put that much money into it because I got lots of grants. And
Oh, that's
so we were,
amazing.
yeah, from an individual sale perspective, we were profitable from day one. And then we got into the green from an overall business perspective 6 months in.
That's amazing. Listen,
So
you need to be
amazing.
doing, are you doing master classes? You need to be doing some classes. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. So
I didn't
what go
go ahead,
ahead.
Leonie. Go
How
ahead.
many can you give more listen, we're gonna have a whole section on grants then. So like how many grants did you apply to and what do you know what the total amount you got at the end of the day?
I applied to so many grants, I'm not gonna lie, it was a lot. I would say my first year in business, I probably got between 20 to 30 grand in grants.
That's
Okay.
amazing.
That is
Mhm,
amazing.
mhm.
And
So
so
it
when
helped a
you
lot.
yeah, so did you hire your first team members with that? You got materials? What helped you? What did you put that money towards?
So honestly speaking, I did not hire my first team member until 2023.
Okay.
I was using contractors to help with some things in the business. But in terms of hiring someone as a W 2, it didn't happen until 2023. I used most of that money towards equipment, supplies, materials. What I learned really quickly in business, especially as a product based business, is that if you can buy in bulk, you can get your products, material, and supplies a lot cheaper. And so that's what I focused on the most, getting the equipment that I needed for the business and then buying products in bulk. And to be fully transparent, that helped me out a lot during the pandemic because one of the issues that happened during the pandemic was the availability of glass material. It was
Mm,
very, very scarce. People were putting maximum orders, like, well, you can only order 3 boxes of these glasses, right? And so because I was able to buy in bulk, I didn't have to deal with those issues, and I didn't have to deal with skyrocketing costs either because I had already had the material because I and it was cheaper to
Mm.
buy in bulk. So,
that's
yeah.
amazing. So, oh, sorry. Do you have a question, Crystal? Okay. So I'm going to come off of the grants a little bit because now that you're talking about your operations and like when you started, you for your first year, you bought a lot of materials. I remember hearing another person's story about candle making, and she started her sales process with pre-orders, and then she got the money from that, and then made the product, and then so on and so forth. So, can you talk about as well? You did your things in the markets, but when you
Yep,
transitioned to online sales, or did you have
yep.
any other sales streams that you were working on outside of the markets during
Yeah.
that first year?
During that first year, I also was working on my corporate strategy. So we do a lot of corporate gifting
Uh,
now. But I think it was during my first year I brought on my first corporate client. I did board gifting, which was really
Ah,
fun to be 100% honest. I love gift wrapping. And so I got to do that. I had an
that's
organization
cool.
place gifts, it's candles, candles as gifts for their board. And so I was also working on filling out that strategy, which has grown a lot for the business, which is so different than individual sales, right? Because you get a bulk order from a corporation versus you having to do each individual sale. And so it was really important to me from the beginning to start establishing multiple streams of income in order to make the business more successful.
I love
Okay.
it.
First of all, this advice is going to help so many people. This is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your
You're
story. I'm going to say that
welcome.
again and again. Okay. Go ahead, Crystal.
So, what's your vision? What's your if a miracle were to happen and you could have this dream business, what would that business look like? How big would it get? Do
Yeah.
you have a
I do. So we are a luxury brand. I want us to be in stores like Nordstrom's and Saks and,
love it. She's like, "Forget
you know,
Target. I'm going to
Okay.
Nordstrom's."
Okay. Neiman's. How you like them
Neiman's,
apples?
exactly. Um,
Listen.
I want to have a manufacturing facility. I know that probably doesn't sound very sexy to people, but it's
No, it's
something
No,
sexy to
it
that
me.
is.
I'm
right?
operations. I'm operations girly. Yes. Warehouse. Yes.
Yes,
Forklifts.
exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Um, so I have this vision of growing the company to the point where we are in luxury retail stores, but the one thing I always want us to stay true to is donating money back to the community around mental health
Mhm.
services because it's
Love it.
super important to me. This year was the first year that we donated, and we donated to an organization called Safe House Outreach in Atlanta. And the donations benefited 5 single moms who have children, some of
Love
which
that.
couldn't get, therapy services or get their medication because it deeply impacted me because it's something I've always wanted to do and I got to do it this year. But furthermore, it impacted me because it also impacts the children. It's very difficult for kids to be in an environment where mom can't afford her medication, so she's a little snappy. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it just meant a lot to me that we got to do that, and that's something that I just want to do more of, and I want to have a greater impact around that.
But your fund's called the Brave Fund, right?
Yes, it's called the Brave
Yes.
Fund.
Leonie
Mhm.
stalked you, so
I
we know.
did.
That's okay.
Question, is are the donations just from your business, or can people donate to the Brave Fund?
Right now, they're just from our sales. At
Okay.
some point, I know I need to create a 501(c) so people can donate to it. Things are a little
Mhm.
busy right now, but at some
I
point,
get it.
I will get to it.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
But we will put a link if you don't mind sharing. We could put some information about Safe House
Yeah.
below. So anybody who wants to donate, please feel free.
Yeah. That'd be
And
awesome.
then if you have any more information about the Brave Fund, then we'll put it down below as well.
And
Yeah,
then
of
buying
course.
a
Of course.
candle is indirectly
Please, we'll put a link. We'll put all
funding.
the links. Buy candles. Yes, do it.
Yeah.
But so I love the heart behind what you do. And so you
Thank
talked
you.
about your overall vision as well. But then you still have a long way to go. You still have a lot that you want to do for so for someone who's listening out there who may relate to your story, who wants to, grow from that, can you this is going to be like a kind of two-part question, but one, can you talk about a pain point that's still there? So maybe there's somebody out there who could help and address that pain point. And then what would you tell somebody who is starting out and is inspired by your journey?
Yeah. So a pain point. Hmm. Let me think. I feel like I struggle with two. One is you don't know what you don't know, and
Yeah.
getting comfortable in that space. Because I
Mhm.
learn something new every single day. Like every single day, I learn something new. Whether it's something I should have been doing, or something I should be doing, or will have to start doing from a regulatory perspective, or even if something as simple as like making a decision on how to file your taxes, right? I learn something new every day. And so I've had to get very comfortable in the space of not knowing what I don't know, but seeking it out. And I would say one pain point that I don't think I'm ever going to get over is whenever we launch a new product, I get so nervous. I get so nervous. I'm like, are people going to like it? Are they going to hate it? And I've just had to learn to just have thicker skin and realize that everybody's different and everybody's gonna have a different opinion. And my skin is getting thicker as I go along.
Yeah, that's a good one. Like thick skin doesn't happen overnight. It takes
No.
a lot. It's first of all, you got to get wounded a little bit, then it's got to heal,
Exactly.
and then that's how the thick skin gets there.
Exactly. That's a good way of saying it. Exactly.
Okay, so then what would you say to somebody who is like what who needs to hear from Val?
I would say the times that you think about quitting, remember why you started.
Hmm,
On my journey, in complete transparency, there have been multiple times where I was like, this is just too much. Like, what was I thinking?
I understand.
And then I remember why I do it. I do it
Mhm.
because I get so much joy out of knowing that there are moms and kids who are going to be positively impacted by our donations into the community. I do it because when I get messages from customers, like, your candle just helped me relax. I was so stressed out. I didn't know what to do. It's just so inspiring to me for people to share their stories. I don't think sometimes that people realize for entrepreneurs, like how important that is. Feedback,
Mhm.
it's really important because you never know what space someone's in. And, as an entrepreneur, it's hard. Sometimes you're like, am I having an impact? And then you get that story and you're like, okay, I'm on the right path. I'm going to keep doing what
Yeah,
I'm doing. So I would say just remember why you started.
I love that. Remember the
Yeah.
why.
Yes.
Leonie and I were talking about that. I don't know which season because we're a couple over 50 episodes in, right? We're
Yay.
up there.
Oh,
40?
okay. I don't think so. No, no,
I
no.
think so. I think we are.
Well, recorded, yes.
Yes,
Posted, no.
correct. I'm talking about recorded. How
Oh
many times
yeah.
we've sat in these chairs, right?
Oh, many, many. Yes.
And we've had those moments where we're like, "So when are we gonna call it quits? Like,
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Like
are we
we
are
have
we are we pushing through?" And then we'll get a random DM. from someone who's
Oh,
like,
yes.
"I loved that episode. That episode helped me." Or sometimes it's family, sometimes it's random people, sometimes it's strangers, but just realizing, "Man, I changed one person's life. Like, someone
Right.
listened to this and was
Somebody was
inspired."
impacted. So it's like making that impact and then knowing it's like a trickle. It's a trickle at first, but then it gets bigger and bigger and then it's rushing.
Yes.
It's like just wherever you are on that spectrum, just stay focused and faithful and
Yeah.
Yes.
persistent and all those things.
There's this research that I quote a lot in my day job, but it applies here, and it's about how most companies' strategic plans fail. And the reason why they fail is because of one thing, and the one thing is inconsistency. They fail because they're not consistent with the goals. They're not
Mhm.
consistent with the vision. They create the vision and then it falls off somewhere. So then
Mhm.
their whole plan fails. I think it's the same with entrepreneurship. Like, it might not blow up tomorrow. Sometimes it does. Everyone's story is different. But the consistent thing that whether you have a blow up immediately or a blow up later is you have to remain consistent and like push through the hard days, push through the rough
Yes.
days, because that consistency will produce something amazing
Yes.
eventually. So that's what keeps us encouraged, and it sounds like
Yeah.
that's what keeps you going too. It's just
Absolutely.
every day, even if it's a tough day, pushing through it because a better day will come.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I can't wait to go into Saks or Nordstrom's or Bloomingdale's or whatever other
Exactly.
indie store they have a rodeo and seeing Immerse candles. And I think most people who like to relax are candle people. Like,
Oh,
Yeah,
I
for
love
sure.
it. Mhm.
so
I
I
just got
love that.
into baths because we have a big tub in our new place that we
Ooh.
moved to, and
Oh,
lighting the candle on the bathtub. Oh,
it's a vibe.
yes. It's a whole vibe. When I tell you I ain't never been so relaxed, like I never was a bath person until after I had a child. And then I'm like, oh, I'm a bath person now.
No,
Okay.
no, I love a good candle, like a candle that can make the whole house smell
Yes,
change. Like, a good candle would change your day.
it
Change
And
will.
everything. Yes.
so you picked a probably recession proof industry, because even during the
Sure
pandemic, I didn't
did.
care. I might have $5, but I'm gonna buy a candle.
That's
So
for dang
I
sure.
I love that. Okay. Did you have any more questions, Leonie? Because I had another one.
Go ahead.
So we're jumping around because that's how my brain works. I told you I have ADHD.
It's all right.
So, when it comes to your external team,
Yes.
who do you have? Like, do you have a CPA or do you do it? Do you have a marketing person or do you do it? Do you have a social media person or is it you? Do you have a therapist? Because I do. Like, what are
Mhm.
what are the things that you have to keep you
Yeah.
running?
I love that question. Okay. So I have a CPA, I have a bookkeeper.
Okay.
One thing that I will say though, I just want to throw this out here. A lot of people feel like they have to pay an astronomical amount of money to have a team, but don't discredit Upwork, don't discredit Fiverr. Like, please don't discredit using international labor. They're really smart and they're a really great resource for your business. So I do have a social media manager, thank God, because my relationship with social media is a little tricky. I have a love-hate relationship, mostly
I
hate.
understand.
So I have a CPA, a bookkeeper, a social media manager, a photographer, because
Nice.
products need to be photographed, and I'm not the best at it. And then outside of that, internally, we have staff as well that help around the production and the sale of the products. So I would say don't be afraid to use contract labor. Don't be afraid to use those type of resources as well because they're a really good source of labor.
You have a village. You have a village
Yeah.
to keep things. I think that's probably what I would say one of the things I wish I knew when I think about the first business I started versus where I am today is in the beginning I tried to do everything. Like,
Yes,
and you can read a lot and learn a lot, but you're not going to be as proficient as
exactly.
a CPA, right?
Absolutely.
We don't need anyone going to jail. So it's like
Right.
knowing when to hire, when you could do it yourself, when you don't have the bandwidth, maybe your time is best used somewhere else
Yes.
rather than trying
Yes.
to figure out a website. I think the website is where I learned that. Cause I
Yes.
had a lot of websites. I would spend
Yes.
hours trying to get this website right. And I'm like, I could have been doing something else and someone could have did this in a day because this is what they do. Right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So
absolutely. I think
knowing when
that's
to
a
have a team.
really yeah, that's a really good point. And I think that, when you start off and you have limited resources, that's when places like Fiverr, Upwork come
Mhm.
into place, where you can get the labor that you need at a lower cost, so to speak, as opposed to
Mhm.
hiring someone or people feeling like they have to hire a full-time CPA when you don't have full-time CPA work, especially when you're first starting out, to be
Right.
100% honest. But the other thing I just wanted to add in is that I do have a therapist, and I am such an advocate for therapy.
Me too.
Um,
Yes, therapy
it,
gang. Gang, gang.
yes, like a good part of my team is my therapist because I be telling my therapist all my business that I can't
Love
talk to
it.
my staff about everything.
Yes, yes, yes. I love that.
I do too. So we're probably wrapping up towards the end of this. We got all up in your business.
Yes.
Val, and thank you
You're
for
Thank you.
welcome.
sharing.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being open, for being transparent. It's been really a joy. I'm inspired.
Very. And I can't wait to go look at some grants. I don't know what for yet, but I'm gonna look for some.
Right.
I'm
Hello,
gonna apply.
Alice.
Hello, Alice. So
Mhm.
our next segment is things we wish we knew or things you would stand on business on.
Yeah.
So we'll go first, and then you give us yours. Okay?
Okay.
Do you want to go first, Leonie?
No, you go first.
Okay, I'll go first. I wish I knew that today's journey does not always lead to tomorrow's. I think when I first went to undergrad and I was majoring in business, I thought I would be one thing. And then now, I'm not gonna say how many years because it's been a while. However many years later, I'm in a whole different career than what I thought. And I think sometimes we don't realize that when we're learning something. I think God always has a bigger plan. And sometimes you pick up these random skills that you think are gonna lead you one path and he uses them somewhere else. So I think I wish I knew that. I would stand on business on it's never too late to reinvent yourself and it's never too late to start over. You're never too old or too young or too far in. Doesn't matter if you feel like it's time for you to shift, shift. Because it could be the best shift of your life. A lot of billionaires started in their fees to complete career changes. So that's what I would say, things I wish I knew and what I would stand on business on.
Awesome. Mine is, it's going to be off the top of my head. I didn't write this down, but something from your story definitely resonated with me. And that's when you moved to Atlanta and you had to start your business all over. It's when you go into a new market or you're in a new space, it requires new tools, new everything. So I moved my business from one city to another, and I didn't do that. I went full fledged with it as like it was nothing had changed. And after the pandemic, and that definitely I'm paying the price for that. So like just make sure put on what does it say in the Bible? Put old wine skins, like
Mm.
Mm,
don't put
Don't
new
put
wine
new wine.
in old wine skins.
That's it. We'll
yeah.
quote the scripture. We got you.
Yes, go if you have a new system, if you have a new situation coming up, look at it with fresh eyes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's
Mhm.
awesome.
Your turn,
Mhm.
Val.
Okay. So what I wish I knew was that obsessing about what other people think of you is
Mm,
not going to get you anywhere. It is
that's
difficult
good.
to be in business in general and be a woman in business. And sometimes you're going to come across to someone, I don't want to curse.
Go ahead, girl.
Sometimes you'll come across as the B word, and that's
Mm,
okay because if that's what you need to be in that moment to get what you need done, as long as you're respecting people, as long as you're
Mhm.
standing by your own values, obsessing about what other people think of you will not get you anywhere at all.
that's good. That's good.
What I will always stand 10 toes down on, let me think. I will always stand 10 toes down on the fact that everyone is worthy of mental health and a break.
Mm.
I think especially in the Black community, we say things like, "I'll sleep when I die." I remember
Mhm.
when I was growing up, people in my family used to say that all the time. Maybe that's a
Yeah.
Midwest thing. Oh, I don't know. But everyone is worthy and deserving of a break, of a
Mhm.
mental health break, or just even a simple vacation. Mental health is not a luxury, it's a necessity.
I love that. I
Mhm.
love that's vital.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up, I don't want to leave because Val's just
I
been giving us
know,
so
you're
much.
so awesome,
Thank
Val.
you.
Okay,
Um,
like when we speak about the future of the podcast, so let me just get into like a little dreamscape. We want to have conferences at some point or retreats.
mhm.
So I
Yes.
could definitely see down the line when we have our retreat, you being there on a panel, in a
Oh,
as speaker, whatever, doing a workshop. So that is what we see for the future of Giggles and Goals is be able to
Mhm.
have this vibe in person, but better.
I
Yeah.
love that. That's
Mhm.
awesome. And
So
it's
we'll
gonna
be
happen. It's gonna happen.
Yes,
I can see it.
yes. Mhm.
go to Bloomingdale's, get your candles, and then
Okay.
come over to the conference.
Yes, yes.
So I'm excited about that. So as we close out our show, tell us where we can find you. Where can we buy candles?
Yeah.
Where
Yes,
can
Yeah.
we follow you? Give us a
Yes.
deep.
Okay.
yes.
So you can find us online at Get Immerse, immerse with an E.com. You can find us on all social media outlets at Get Immersed, same thing. And you can also learn more about the Brave Fund on our website. Remember that every purchase supports mental health. And yeah, we're just excited. Thank you so much for having me. This is my first podcast.
All right. Well, more to
Yeah.
come, more to come.
Yeah, this was
Well, thank you
awesome.
for
Thank
being
you.
here. And
Thank you.
everyone, as always, we always like to leave you with the best thing you can do in your day, which is subscribe. Subscribe
Subscribe.
right now. Subscribe, follow us, post, comment. If you want to hear more about Val, give her a shout out in the comments. And this episode, we're just so excited that Val was our first interview on
Yes.
It's the start of many. So definitely follow her as well. We'll leave all the details below. But until next time, we love y'all. Bye.
Bye.